So good afternoon, students. So basically, we'll be dealing with the unit 1 in the applied chemistry. So this class will be basically for the people who have opted in the online mode of education, right? So basically, we are going to deal in the unit 1 the following topics. So this is the as per the syllabus. So basically, we'll be discussing about the modern periodic law, its importance, how we classify the elements, particularly in the various groups like S block, P block, D block, and F block elements, and what are the changes in the properties, basically how the physical properties changes, how the chemical property changes among these blocks, right? Like the SPDF block. So basically, we'll be dealing with the properties like the electronegativity, electron affinity, atomic size, and the ionization potential. So firstly, before going further, the major question is why we need to classify the elements, that right? So why we actually need the periodic table? Why cannot we study each and every elements, right? So this can be the question that many of you can ask, right? So what is the thing? If you just look at the modern periodic table to date, there are total 118 elements known, right? So if there are total 118 elements known, so they might be having different, they might not, they actually have different physical properties, different chemical properties, right? All have they have a different bond forming properties, right? So basically their chemical and physical nature vary between each other, right? So if you are going to study about 118 elements, right, it will be a very daunting task to read about them, to remember their properties or the chemical nature and everything, right? So thus, to make the thing simple, what the scientists are doing continuously, they are trying to improve the periodic table, right? They are trying to improve the periodic table, and the important factor why we need to classify the elements are, firstly, the classification will help us to understand the properties of elements and their compounds. So basically, if we can group these elements into some groups, like I am talking about the modern periodic table, we have SPTA, D and F group, right? So we can just study about the properties of any single element in this group, and we can predict the activity of the other element that are present in the similar group. Likewise, the second is based on their position in the periodic table, one can predict the properties of the elements and their compounds, right? So this is the second thing. Then thirdly, it is very easier to study, compare and differentiate the properties of the elements and compounds from different groups. So for example, if I again talk about the modern periodic table where we have S, P and D and F block element, right? So if I want to make a comparison between the physical properties or the chemical properties between the S block, P block, D block or the F block elements, what I can do, I can easily do that by recognizing the S block electronic configuration or their physical chemical properties, and then drawing a comparison with the P block or the F block or the D block elements, right? So this is an easier way, right? So what we can do by classifying the elements. First, we can make the learning very simple, right? We have to just learn about some of the elements and we can predict the reactivity or the physical property of other elements in the same block or the same family, right? The second thing, what we can do, we can predict the activities and properties of other elements present in the same group or the block, right? The third thing what we can do, we can just compare one group or one group of element with the other group of element, right? So this, in this way, the things will become very simple for us, right? So this is the thing, right? Now it is difficult to understand the use, the properties of each element at a time, right? So I just told there are 118 elements, and if we try to read the properties of each element, then it will become a tough ask, right? Right, so hence attempts were made to discover ways to learn the properties of element in the systemic order, right? So if we look at the history, if we look at the history of the classification of the periodic table, so when we look, this study started with the in year 1800. So you can assume, right, this is the 21st century. So in the year 1800 there were 31 chemicals elements were known, right? Today there are 118, and that time there were 31 chemicals known, right? So it was little bit easy to study about those 31 element in comparison to the 118 elements. But what the people did there, what the scientists did there, they again classified these elements, these 31 elements, right? Then in the 1865, there were from 31, there were 63 more elements were discovered, right? So this number is increasing, and even nowadays this number is increasing. We are in number 118, 118. So that's why there is an immense need of making a periodic table and modifying that periodic table once we find a new chemical or the new element, right? So this is one of the important thing. Right. So if you talk about the classification, so basically when in the year 1800, right, 33 chemicals were known. So at that time there was a periodic table which was called as the Daubigny triad, right? So Daubigny was the scientist who actually classified these 30 or the 33 element in the form of a triad, right? So triad means a group of three, right? So what was in the triad? So basically when you look at the triad, so basically there was some thing that he actually used in this classification system, right? So what he did, he actually used the atomic mass, right? So basically when he was classifying the three element, he was taking the atomic mass. So the atomic mass of the middle element was the average of the rest two element, right? So basically atomic mass of the second element of the triad is nearly equal to the arithmetic mean of the atomic mass of other two elements. So for example, if you look at his triad, for example, lithium has an atomic number of 7, right? The potassium has an atomic number of 39, right? So how to find this middle element or the atom, right? So what he did, 39 plus 7 divided by 2, right? So this will be 23. So atom or the element which is be having the atomic mass of 23 will be placed in this triad. So for example, the 23 atomic mass is of sodium, right? So basically now he placed lithium, sodium and potassium together, saying that these three elements have the similar chemical and physical properties, right? So second, he make a triad of calcium, strontium and the barium, right? So he taken the calcium 40, 137 is of barium, 137 plus 40 divide by 2 is around 87.6, right? So this 87.6 is the mass of the strontium. So basically he called that the calcium, strontium and the barium will have the similar properties, right? So this way he had made some triads, right? Triad, that is a group of three elements, right? But this system was actually having some limitation, right? So what was the important limitation? The Daubigny idea of classification of elements into triad did not receive wide acceptance, as he could arrange only 9 elements in the triad form. So basically during his time, that is 1829, right? So basically how many elements were known? There were 33 elements, right? So among that 33 molecules or the atom, sorry, he was only able to arrange the 9 elements, right? So this was not widely accepted. The second reason for the negligence of the Daubigny idea was that the elements number was increasing, right? From the 1829, if you go to the 1867, there were rise in the element. Then in the 1867, there were 67 elements known, right? So this system actually failed, right? Then came the Newland law of octaves, right? So Newland have given an law which is called as the law of octave. So basically he has given the law of octave in 1866, and till his time 56 elements were known, right? So basically now octave mean 8, right? When we look at the word this octave, octa means 8, right? So basically the law of octave was something that was dealing with the number 8. So right, the octave, what he said if the elements are arranged by the increasing order of their atomic masses. So again he has emphasized on the atomic masses, right? So what he said, if the elements are arranged by increasing order of their atomic masses, property of every eighth element starting from the first element repeat. So for example, if I am putting the elements in the increasing order of the atomic masses, for example, I have got atomic mass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So my molecule, my atom having the atomic number 1 will be resembling the atom molecule or the atom that is having the atomic mass of 8, right? Similarly, the atom of the atomic mass 2 will be resembling with the atom of having the atomic mass 9, right? The 3 will be showing the same activity as of 10, right? So there will be a difference of 8 atoms, right? So every 8 atoms, after the every 8th element, the activity will be repeating, right? So for example, he contained the element starting from the hydrogen and end at the thorium, right? So if he has classified like this, so basically see, this lithium is showing the activity similar to the sodium, right? See the difference, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So this is the first molecule, and if you see the difference, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is 7th, right? So this is will the 8th molecule if you count it from here. So first molecule will be showing the similar activity with the 8th molecule, right? Similarly, this molecule will be showing the activity with this molecule because this is the 8th molecule, right? Then this boron will be showing the same activity with this aluminium because this is again the atomic mass of 8 repetition is there, right? So basically it is a difference, right? So the molecule with atomic number 1 will be showing the resemblance with the atomic mass of 8, 2 will be showing with the atomic mass of 9, 3 will be showing of with the 10, and so on, right? So this is the idea behind the law of octaves, right? But this also failed. Why this failed, right? So basically it have many limitations, right? So basically similarity in the properties of element as the law was seen up to calcium only. So basically, although Newland actually grouped the element up to thorium, right? But the similarity was on this trend was seen till calcium only. So this was one of the major failure, right? At that time, around one element was discovered every year. The element to be discovered were not considered. So basically, see, as of today also, we are discovering new elements every year or every 2 year or every fourth year, right? We are discovering that thing. So that time also the elements were discovered. So basically, when those new elements were discovered, they were actually failed to put them in the periodic table, right, on the basis of their law of octaves, right? So this was the common thing, right? So next thing, at the many places, two elements were placed in a single slot. So basically two elements were placed in a single slot and they were having different atomic masses, right? So if a single slot contains two atoms of different atomic masses, how they can be similar with the previous eighth one, right? And in this way, the law of octave again failed, right? Then there was a Mendeleev periodic table, right? So Mendeleev was a Russian chemist. In 1869, he gave the Mendeleev's periodic table, right? So during the time of Mendeleev, there were 63 elements that were known, right? So again, Mendeleev did what? Mendeleev arranged the elements in increasing order of the atomic masses, right? For example, the Daubinier was actually playing on the average of the atomic masses, right? The law of octave was also based on the atomic masses, and the Mendeleev periodic table is also based upon the atomic masses. So what he did, he tried to put the elements with similar properties in a group. So basically he introduced the concept of the group. So basically what he did, he actually tried to fix the element having the similar property in a particular group, right? Due to this, we find the empty boxes in the table. So basically what he did one more good thing. He actually put some free boxes, right? Because he was sure that there were some elements that are missing and they can be found in the future, right? So what he did, he actually put some blank boxes. So these atoms can be placed there once they have been discovered, right? So this was his thing. So basically now how the Mendeleev classified the things. Actually Mendeleev classified his periodic table on the basis of the reactivity of the atoms that were known that time, right? So basically he introduced the periodic table by the reactivity of the atom. So basically the atoms were showing two types of properties. That is one, that is the ability to form the oxides, right? So basically what are the oxides? Oxides are the compounds that are formed by the reaction of the oxygen. For example, magnesium oxide, calcium oxide, zinc oxide, lithium oxide, sodium oxide, right? These are all the things. Then there are the hydrides. So basically hydrides are what? Hydrides are the compound of elements with the hydrogen. For example, lithium hydride, sodium hydride, potassium hydride, magnesium hydride, calcium hydride. So basically these elements have the property of forming the hydrides, right? So basically on this property, whether the molecule has the ability to form the oxides, so he classified them as a similar atoms, right? For example, if the atoms are actually forming the oxides, so he classified them in them a single group. If the elements are forming the hydrides, he classified them in the second group, right? So this was the basis of his classification, right? So basically in his table, the horizontal rows present the periodic table are called the periods. So basically what he have the periods, right? He have the periods given, right? And the vertical column present in it are called the groups, right? So he has also classified them as the groups and the periods, right? So there were total 8 groups in the Mendeleev periodic table, 1 to 8, right? So these were the groups, right? And these were the periods, right? So he has classified the elements on the basis of some groups and the periods, right? So, but there were some limitations. There were again some limitations which the Mendeleev periodic table suffered, right? So basically in the Mendeleev periodic table, what were the problem? He was unable to identify the position for the isotopes, right? So what are the isotopes? Isotopes are basically the compound, like for example, you have heard about the hydrogen, deuterium, tritium. So basically they have the same atomic number but different atomic masses, right? So basically this is the thing, right? So basically the atoms of same element having different atomic masses but have the similar chemical properties, right? These were called the isotopes. So isotopes were placed together by the Mendeleev as they have similar properties, but then this violated the arrangement scheme of increasing atomic mass, because in the isotope the atomic mass was changing, right? This is the thing. Then we have some anomalous pair of elements, right? So what he did, at some location elements were put in order of decreasing atomic masses, right? So how he started that he'll be arranging the periodic table by the increasing atomic masses, right? But at some places what he did, he actually used the decreasing atomic mass also, right? Which actually led to the failure of the Mendeleev periodic table, right? So this was the thing. And then the important one was the hydrogen, that is the position of hydrogen in the periodic table was not defined, right? So these were the problem with the Mendeleev, and we have already discussed with the problem with the Daubinier, right? And the Newland law of octave, right? So from here, the modern periodic table starts, right? So basically in your syllabus, we have the modern periodic table, right? So I was just telling you about the brief history about other periodic table that came and were found to have some limitations and they were not recognized, right? So what we recognize today is the modern periodic table, and according to the modern periodic table we have 118 elements known till date, right? So basically in 1913, Moseley showed or proved that the atomic number, right? So previous classification were all made on the basis of the atomic masses, right? So what is there in the modern periodic table? The classification was made on the basis of the atomic number, right? So basically atomic number is a very important property of a element. After that, Niels Bohr made the modern periodic table using the atomic number. So this is very important, right? So basically the modern periodic table has been classified on the basis of the atomic number rather than atomic masses. So I'll be discussing what is the difference between atomic number and atomic masses in my later slides, right? So basic concepts of modern periodic table, right? So the most of the properties of the element depend upon the number of valence electron, right? So we'll be discussing what is this valence electron are, right? Elements having same number of valence electron are grouped together. Thus elements in the group have similar property, right? So basically the valence electrons are those electrons that are found in the outermost cell of a atom, right? We'll be discussing that. What is the valence cell? What are the valence electron and how these valence cell actually impact the modern periodic table, right? So this is the periodic table. This is the actually the periodic table, how the elements are classified in the periodic table, right? So basically elements are classified on the basis of their atomic mass numbers, right? So basically this is the hydrogen, we have the helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon. So basically what we have the atomic number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is actually the thing. So basically this is called the group. This is called the group, and this vertical lines are called the periods in the periodic table, right? So if you look at the period, there are 7 period, right? There are 7 periods in a periodic table, and we have 18 groups in a periodic table, right? So this is the thing. This is the basically the vertical, and this is the horizontal. So horizontal, what we have 18 groups, and in the periods we have 7 period, right? So basically in this we have two other series also, lanthanide and the actinide series. So we'll be discussing about what is this thing and how this modern periodic table is blocked into 4 major parts, that is the S, P, D and F block elements, right? So this is the important thing, right? And there are some exceptions also. For example, we say that all the solids, all the metals are solid, but there are some exceptions like the mercury, which is liquid at the room temperature, right? Then we have something like the bromine is also there, but it act as what? It act as liquid, right? So basically we'll be discussing all these things. So firstly, I'll just go with the brief characteristic of a modern periodic table. So what happens in a modern periodic table, atoms, elements have been arranged by their increasing atomic number, right? We have discussed this thing. So we have an increasing atomic number here rather than the masses, right? So the horizontal rows here are called the periods, and 7 rows in the periodic table. Each row is called a period. The period have numbered from 1 to 7, right? So this is the thing. The first is the shortest period of all and contains only 2 elements, hydrogen and the helium. So if you look at this thing, if you look at the period, right? So basically what we have only the hydrogen and the helium, right? Only the 2 elements are there, right? So if you look at these periods, period 4, period 5, period 6, and the period 7, there are the most number of elements present, right? So this is the thing, right? So first period is the shortest period and it contains only 2 elements, that is the hydrogen and the helium. The second and the third period are the short period and contain the 8 element each. But from the fourth and the fifth period, the element number goes on increasing, and we have 18 elements in each period starting from the fourth period till seventh period, right? This is the thing. Right, so sixth period is very long, that contains 32 elements. So vertical columns are called groups, right? So these are the vertical columns. So there are 18 groups in the periodic table, right? So we'll be discussing about each group, right? So then we have some actinides and the lanthanides. So basically they are called the inner transition element. They are placed separately in the periodic table. So there are 14 lanthanides known till date with the atomic number of 58 to 71, right? And then again there are 14 elements with atomic number of 90 to 103 that are classified under the category of the actinides, right? So this is the thing. So now how to read a periodic table? This is very important, right? So if you look at the periodic table, we have something. We have a symbol for that element name. For example, there is a name called carbon, right? We have a carbon symbol which is referred as C, right? So this is having the atomic number of 6 and we have the atomic weight which is 12.01 when it comes to the carbon, right? So this is the thing. Second thing, what is the atomic number now? right? So basically, when we look at the atom, right, what we have a nucleus and we have the electrons, right? So when we look at the nucleus of an atom, what we have the proton, we have the neutron, and the electrons are revolving, right? So basically, if you look at the charge, neutrons, as the name suggests, they are neutral charged. Then we have a protons which are positively charged, and we have electrons that are negatively charged and are revolving around the nucleus, right? So basically, the number of proton found in the nucleus of an atom is equal to the atomic number, right? So basically, number of proton found in a nucleus of an atom equals the atomic number, or we can say the number of electrons surrounding the nucleus of an atom in a native atom where there has been no transition of electrons, right? So basically, if it is a native form, if the atom is a native form, the number of electrons and the number of protons will be equal, right? So the number of protons and the number of electrons will be giving us the atomic number, right? So we can say like that, number of protons equal to number of electrons, which is equal to the number of, which is equal to the atomic number, right? So this is the thing. So basically now we have talked about the symbol. Symbol is the abbreviation of that atom name, right? Or the element name, right? For example, carbon is C. So what is the atomic weight now? So we have talked about two things. We have talked about the protons and the neutrons which resides in the nucleus, right? So the weight, the number of proton and the neutron in the nucleus of atom constitute the weight of that atom. This is the thing. So if you get a question that asks how do I find the number of proton, electron and neutron in an element using the periodic table? So it will be very simple, right? So what we'll have some formulas, that is the number of proton will be equal to the atomic number of electrons equal to the atomic number of neutrons will be equal to the atomic weight minus the atomic number, right? So we'll be doing some practice on the basis of these formulas, right? So then the things will get relatively very easy for you guys, right? This is the thing, right? Then we can even give the how the nomenclature is given to the element. For example, if you look at the periodic table, you will be finding some name, right? So basically there will be name like nil, un, bi. So basically, for example, we have the 118 molecule, right? And its name is ununocetium, right? You cannot even pronounce the name correctly, right? And the symbol is given as UUO. So how this name is given, right? This name is actually simplified by this thing. For example, we have element number 118, right? So what we have 118. So 1 means un, right? Un, and its symbol is U. So you see there un, and the symbol is U. Then again 1, again the symbol will be un, and the abbreviation will be U. So again we have the un, and the abbreviation will be U, right? Then what we have 8. So 8 means oct, right? So what we have placed oct, OCT, and the abbreviation is O. So we have made the symbol UUO. So OCT, and then what we have to put? We have to put a prefix, that is IUM. So the name will be the unoctinum, octium, right? So this is how the name is given. For example, 101. So 1 is this un, symbol is U, un, symbol is U. Then we have 0, 0 is nil. See, nil is here, NIL, and we have a symbol N, right? And then we have again 1. So it will be un, right? Un, em. So the symbol will be the UNU, right? So this is the thing how the nomenclature is given, right? So this was all about the nomenclature, right? Then this is your homework. If you try, you can do this nomenclature. For example, if a compound with atomic number 120 is discovered in the future, so what could be the name of this molecule, right? So basically from the table, if you look, the number is 120. So basically 1 is UN, 2 is BI, and 0 is the nil, right? So basically the symbol and the name respectively will be U, B, N, right? UBN will be the name, and the IUPAC name will be the un by nil, un by nil EM, right? So basically it will be for the atomic number 120, right? So things are very simple. Right now we'll be discussing about the electronic configuration of elements and the periodic table. So I was talking about the valence shell and the electron revolves outside the nucleus. So basically how we place the electrons in the atom. Right now this is one of the important questions, right? So basically we have some rules, right? So basically electron distribution in the orbit, it is the arrangement of the electrons in the atomic orbital, right? So basically what we have different types of cells. So in the center what we have the nucleus, and from the nucleus outside we have different type of cell. For example, this inside cell is called the K cell, then we have the L cell, then we have the M cell, then we have the N cell, right? So in these cells the electron are actually filled, right? So how we have to fill the electrons? Is there any principle for that? Is there any formula for that? Yes, we do have a formula for this, right? So basically each orbit, for example, if I say K orbit, L orbit, M orbit, or N orbit, can have a maximum of 2n square electron, right? For example, if I talk about the cell number K, where the n number is 1, right? So if I say 2 to the power 2 into n to the power of 2, so basically 1 to the power of 2, it will be 1, right? So 2 into 1 is equals to 2 electrons, right? If I talk about the second cell, right? So basically 2 to the power of 2, it will be 4, 4 into 2, so it will be 8, right? So the maximum of number of electrons that can be placed in the second cell will be 8 electrons, right? Then we have the third cell. So basically in the third cell what we have n is equals to 3, right? So 3 into 3 into 3, right? So what we have 3 to the power of 2. So 3 3 ja 9, right? And 9 into 2. So the maximum electron in the third cell, right, will be 18, right? And in the fourth cell, 4 4 ja 16, and 16 into 2 is 32. So the maximum number of electrons that can reside in the cell fourth, right, that is the n cell, will be 32, right? So basically I'll be telling you how to fill this thing, right? So basically always the first cell is filled, we have to fill this first cell, then through this way we have to go to the from the K cell we have to go to the L cell, then M cell, then the N cell, right? So basically now this is the thing how we fill the thing. So basically at the center we have the nucleus. So for example, if we have atomic number of 1, right? So if we have atomic number of 1, how many electrons will be present there? There will be a presence of single electrons, right? So basically it will go to the first cell, K cell, right? So how many electrons the K cell can have? It can have maximum of 2 electrons, right? So basically in hydrogen we have only 1 electron, so it will be occupying the first cell, right? Then we have a helium. So helium can be, in helium the atomic number will be basically 2, right? So this will be occupying the single cell only, because the maximum number of electron in the single cell can be K cell, can be 2, right? Now we have a lithium. In lithium we have the atomic number of 3, right? So when we have the atomic number of 3, see, it will be first 2 electrons will be going into the K cell, and then the remaining electron will be going to the L cell, right? Because this K cell can have maximum of 2 electrons, this L cell can have maximum of 8 electrons, right? So the same formula goes with the beryllium, boron, and the carbon, right? So now we'll be just discussing about some other example. For example, now argon have an atomic number of 18. So how it will be filled? 2 electron will be here in the K cell, then 8 electrons will be at this L cell, right? Then 2 and 8 is 10. How many remaining? 18, from 2 and 8, 10, and we are remain with the 8, right? So this third cell will have the 8 electron, right? The remaining electron, because this third cell can occupy 18 electrons, right? So it will be occupying the 8 electron here, right? So this is the configuration how we do the things, right? So basically now there is an octet rule, right? So basically if a outermost cell, if the outermost cell of an electron, if it is not n is equal to 1, right? If it is n is equal to 1, for example, the hydrogen or the helium, where we only have the single cell. So other than that, if an outermost cell is having total of 8 electrons, right? Total 8 electrons, we say that the octet is complete and that atom is stable, and that atom cannot form the other compounds or the molecules, and we say that the octet is complete and they actually behave as the noble gases. So basically noble gases like the hydrogen, neon, argon, helium, all these have the filled electrons in their outermost electronic configuration, right? So this is the thing. This is the thing. Now we were talking about the valence cell and the valency of an atom, right? So basically now, for example, see, if we talk about what we talk about the boron, right? We talk about the boron. So basically boron has the atomic number of 5. So what it can have? It can have 2 electron in the first cell and 8 electron in the outermost cell, right? So basically now it only have the 3 electron here, right? So basically these 3 electrons are called the valence electrons. Means this can share or take these electron from the, one can take the electron or a boron can share these electrons, right? So basically these 3 electron, remaining electron, are called the valence electrons, right? For example, in the fluorine, atomic number 9, what we have? 2 in the inner cell, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the outermost cell. So basically this 7 is the valence number of electron, right? If it would 8, it would have completed the octet, right? So this is the thing. Right. So you can just try making some atoms on the basis of the K element. And what you can do, you can just place the electrons as per the 2n square rule, right? So you can just take some atomic numbers like 30, 35, anything which you want, and you can try to fill the electrons, right? So we'll be discussing these things in the live class, when we'll be doing a live class, how to fill this electron in the orbital, right? So this will be the thing, right? So basically now I'll be starting this quantum mechanical model of atom, right? So firstly, you can try till how to fill that K element, right? So I'll just give you one example before closing this class. So what I'll just do, I'll just opening a pen, and suppose if I have an atomic number of 15, right? I have an atomic number of 15. So what I'll do, I'll have to draw a nucleus at the center, right? This thing, and what I have to do, I have to make cell. This is the K cell, this is L cell, right? So how many electrons this cell can have? This can have the maximum of 2 electrons. So what I'll do, I'll make the 2 electrons. Now the second cell can occupy how many electrons? This can occupy a maximum of 8 electrons. So what I'll do, I'll make a maximum of 8 electron, right? This. So basically this will be 4, this will be this, right? So basically now I have to make the 8 electrons in total, right? So these are the 8 electrons, right? So 8 plus 2, 10, right? So I will be making a third cell. This is M cell, right? I'm very poor at drawing when I'm drawing in the computer, right? So how many electrons we have left with? We have left with the 5 electrons, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So basically, in order to complete it octet, how many more electron it require? It require 3 more electrons. So basically, the valence, this K, L, and M. So basically this M cell will be the valence cell, and there will be 5 valence electron, right? There will be 5 valence electron that can participate in the reaction, right? So this is the thing. So basically this is the valence cell, and these electrons in the outermost cells are called the valence electrons, right? Clear? This is a simple thing. Right. So in the next class, what we are going to do, we are going to discuss about the quantum mechanical model of the atom. Right. On the basis of this, we will be classifying the elements into the S, P, D, and F block elements. Right. So this is all for today. Right.